How are you?
How are you?
See ya.
I'm still teaching.
Good. Yeah, I learned that too.
Yeah.
That's also exciting. Yeah, I know.
I mean, we have a lot of problems there.
Really?
Like 2 minutes. We'll be right on schedule.
Cheers. I'll grab a couple here.
There's a couple of this too.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
I'll stand here. You're gonna be right on the speaker.
If you're right, if you line up that way, you're good right there.
I would have known you were coming, I would have got up. So,
Greg, if you want, here's what Tony says.
I had to kind of laugh, figured, youngest one there. I looked the other day and I'm like, what the hell is he doing in his yard? And then all of a sudden, the light bulb went off and then I saw the pipe and I was like, that son of a gun's got this thing. But I'm minded.
Yeah.
I was gonna send him a text and joke with him about it, but I figured I better not. He's probably not too excited about that, having a little one in the house and having that trouble. Well, hopefully you don't have to go all the way to the street.
Camera shows it right in the yard.
Mine was right by the house and then it was out by the street too. Yeah, and I was walking by and Dusty was out in the yard and I says, I looked over and I says, you're not wanting to flush anytime soon, are you? He said, no, why? I said, well, look across the street, then look at my yard. Oh.
Not saying anything when we're up there for something, feel free to chime in. What do you think?
All right.
Just went around the door if you wanted to.
Who runs the show then?
He'll be here. He texted me at 6:45.
He's on time if he's 5 minutes late.
Mark him down at the party. Just start the meeting without. That's what I would have done.
Yeah, we didn't get any of that.
Good morning, everybody.
Maroon?
No.
A little personal issue.
Yeah, we have a couple.
call the meeting order. I'll call the meeting order. Anybody here for a public forum?
Yeah, I know it's not something that you guys can do vote on tonight, but we're already planning for, 4th of July stuff and didn't get on for tonight's agenda, but we're just wondering and, gonna start planning for the 4th of July stuff and curious to thoughts and, use of fire hall and that parking lot again. Is what we're kind of looking at, and we got here at the end of the month, and we just kind of want to get the bug in the ear and.
Is that for the dance and?
Yeah, for the beer tent on the 4th, and then, use of the fire hall for the pancake breakfast, or for whatever the club decides on that part.
Well, good. I don't think that'll be a problem in your own meeting.
Yeah, I think you got a form.
Yeah, yep, and I'll have that for next month. We didn't get up here and just thought we would put the bug in the ear.
Okay.
We got our meeting coming up here in a couple weeks, so. If there's any concerns or.
Sounds good.
All right, thank you. We have a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'd like a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second then.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
Shouldn't see that second sheet with a couple bills on it.
I had a couple things for our police in town. When did that when does that contract start?
It starts the first of the year, it's the new one every year.
Okay, but I see we still got some charges for gases.
Not getting, that's not gonna go off until we get the new car. So
Yes,
right
we're
now.
getting a new car though.
Yeah, but we're still paying for our car currently because it is our responsibility to care for that car until the new one comes. Then we would no longer be paying for gas and insurance on the vehicle.
Okay,
So we budgeted like 5 months of our own car usage, and that's kind of gonna be right where it sits when we get the car. So, we did budget for 5 months use of our own car.
yeah, okay. I just, forgot, okay, they took over this. so we're getting
Yeah,
some
we're,
gas.
it wasn't gonna be until,
The new squad is, that's gonna replace the Army squad, and that's just waiting to get outfitted and straight.
Okay.
yeah.
That's, I was just trying to get.
Yep,
the-
yep, and then no more bills for that after that. It'd be worked into the quarterly contract.
I see the strikers, we must have got the caught.
Just a little update on that. After tonight, because we do have a USDA grant, we'll take a copy of that check, submit that to the USDA through Chris Easton, and then they will cut us a check back for our grant.
Okay,
So the
great.
5545 grant.
Okay, anybody have any other questions? Now we'll call for a vote. All in favor of the consent agenda, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And the new copier for the office?
Yeah, so our current copier, it's from 2013, so it's an 8-year-old copier. If not a little, I think we got it in 2013, and it was like a model floor copy or something. We've been having issues with it recently, it's been requiring more maintenance, so it's kind of best now that we kind of go in the route of a new copier. These are bid prices, so this is what the state pays for these, so these are kind of the same price that we got. I guess I'm looking for whether we do a 60-month rental or we just purchase it outright, upfront. I'm kind of looking for ideas there. This lays out everything it has. Currently, our copier does not even fit one ring of paper. This one will fit one ring of paper. And that makes everyone in the office very happy.
Between the purchase and the 60-month rental, what is there a service agreement or something with those?
Yeah, that was in the email, the one page before.
It showed that showed the cost, but is that you're gonna still have to pay, to purchase it, you still have to pay per copy cost?
Yes, it's,
Maintenance is same either way,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Okay.
I think
Yeah.
I should purchase it instead.
okay.
I'll make a motion that we purchase.
Jesse made a motion. You have a second? Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Right, the Darrellin project. You ready for that?
We can do the public hearings.
Sure.
My recommendation would be to open the public hearings. And then afterwards, we can table the rest of it until Mike can come back to talk about, Mike Bonnie can come back and talk. If he wants to talk about it.
Actually, would you wanna do the public hearing so that people will have a opportunity to talk after they've heard that, I suppose?
Yeah.
Mike and I were gonna do that, presentation after.
And they can answer the questions at that time too.
Yeah, yeah, so they just do the whole thing, so.
He's currently doing the presentation for different cities.
Yep. So we should open the two meetings?
Let's just table and continue on
Wait,
then.
okay. We'll go to the, well, then we're gonna skip the whole Darrellin section.
Mhm.
Okay. All right, we'll go to the wastewater treatment plant update.
Last week, there was a blockage in the system that required it to be jetted out. The blockage still has not been completely figured out, but it's flowing better. And then tomorrow, they are gonna put in a new pump, the pump that we purchased a few months ago. So that will be installed tomorrow, or part starting to be installed tomorrow. That's kind of where we're at with the wastewater treatment plant. It just seems like hopefully this blockage is not a big time issue that we have to solve here, but it's something that can be on the radar. Hopefully it can be resolved here shortly.
Okay. Anything else in building and maintenance?
I don't think I have much for that update yet.
EDA board. We have a loan request.
Yep.
On the agenda, I just see you on. That's it.
Yeah, just April. Yeah, we have about 100 pages of journal and stuff.
Anybody got page number yet?
79.
Okay.
No.
And do we gotta do anything? Last meeting,
We approved 2 meetings, 2 loans depending on bank approval. So those are still pending.
okay, but it was for,
It was for the hotel, a hotel, and yeah.
but for the rebound, we're fine.
Yeah, this is a new one that was last week, I think. Yep. And the same type of structure, right? Waiting on bank approval or? Nope, I'm not on this one.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Motion by Sagan and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Any comments on the EDA?
I went through the Darlin project, and that's coming up.
You want to give just a short update on the electrical charger we're looking at? I don't think we've moved on it yet.
We haven't moved on it. We got some, honestly, some bids from Warren Electric. And expect to put in the pads and bolsters for that. To do one service, it would be $4,200. And to add a second service by that pad, the electrical will all be there. It's just pad and another bolster and some other little wiring or something. So I'd have to go through it, it'd be another $1,950.
And the best location, the cheapest location to get it started would be behind the bank.
Oh, yeah, forgot that, because we kind of moved that.
Because it'd be much more expensive run to go to the center to the location of transformers.
So closer to that transformer.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah.
And we haven't decided. there
This would be a lot better place.
There would be a cost for the charging.
We'd-
Not sure if it
Yes,
is.
we were still talking about how we would charge for it, whether it be a time basis or a usage basis. Both are viable options. One is easier to counteract load peak times, because then it'd just be a flat rate versus trying to price it when the loads are high, demand's high. So that's all information that we gotta look into when we figure this carport thing out.
I think, is he gonna come in our next EDA meeting? Maybe?
We haven't decided that, but we're just trying to figure out, what types of chargers do we want to do, how many do we want to do, and like Devin said, the pricing structure. So that'll be something.
I think I can get that to you, so what we're looking at.
Perfect. Yeah, we can do that.
That's what I had him price out anyway. So, okay. And then maybe next meeting, maybe do a vote. So get moving on some.
Several different ways to, and most of them were including a monthly service that we would have system enabled. So that would be something we'll have to look at, the ongoing cost also.
Yeah, because we got to, and it was kind of like, do we charge per minute, or do we just charge per flat rate? Go from there. So, it'd be good to get them, I think.
And then My Energy will pay for a portion of the charger as well.
Yeah, maybe what it costs, we're gonna need to know the cost for that second charger if we like to put that in at the same time.
Okay, we can have a park board. You met?
Yeah, we met last night. Jeff, you want to talk about it, or you want me to get the highlights?
Well, I guess I can talk about it and fill in where I messed with things. The splash pad update, there's another wrench in that a little bit that we have to deal with the rainwater runoff. So there's the city, the cost for a valve and what the solution is to deal with the rainwater and snow melt issue, since that should not go down the sanitary sewer. Devin's getting bids for plumbing, all the other stuff that goes into it, kind of working through that to see what the of the package is, and then trying to determine what the actual, I should say, kind of a rough estimate of what the water consumption is going to be to figure out how to budget for that. You want me to talk about this grant?
Yeah, so this is a resolution that you failed to make your packet, but it's part of the splash pad update.
So there was, I'm not sure how the grant was found or. There's a DNR grant that came up, that we could get, 1-for-1 matching money. And that's part of this resolution that's in front of us tonight. What the thought process is with that is we could get the splash pad done and get the shelter that, that's been talked about being built for the bathrooms, picnic shelter type thing and that. So Evan's working on plans for the shelter itself, so we can figure out, what the cost would be for that to apply for this grant. Basically.
Yeah, to match up to 250, our ask won't be that high, our ask will be somewhere around 100.
You know, we had thought about maybe combining the splash pad in that too, and or the infrastructure, but that would slow the project down too much and change the.
So I'm guessing we'd apply for the grant without the infrastructure on it. That way we can still get the infrastructure done and hopefully get this project done.
And the deadline for this grant is March 31st.
Yeah, end of the month, yeah. So it's something that Chris Geeson and I are working on, to get that thing done.
So we're gonna take the infrastructure costs that we've already basically planned.
Because, yeah, you can't move anything before you get awarded the grant. So, we're not gonna delay that part 4 or 5 months. That just doesn't seem like a very good option, especially when we already have the price, we know what the price is.
Do you have any idea what the approval time is on this grant?
That's another thing too that we need to make sure on. Sometimes it's short, sometimes it's long, so I need to call the DNR. I have another question for them anyway, so I'll put that on there.
It says early July, but then even to do anything related to the grant, it looks like we have to wait for the commissioner's final approval, which could be after July.
Right, so it could be, the latest it would be awarded would be in July, and then we have to wait for the commissioner's approval.
All right, so I guess we're looking for the resolution to be approved too.
I'd make that motion.
Second,
We have a motion and a second for the, that's the wrong one, for the DNR preparation grant for splash pad. Any further discussion? All further, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. What else the park board do?
The two last things I would comment, say, we're gonna do a park tour in April, so get that done early so we can get the parks improved as soon as possible. And then the second thing is we'll be looking to hire summer help for mowing and watering plants and various other things.
yeah, and I guess the other thing is the dog park is basically tabled until somebody else gets stuff up and take that project on.
Yep.
All right. Library board.
Met last night. Julie Little will be retiring, so we are discussing part-time library aide. Been posted on Facebook, will be out in the papers as well. There is, I guess, a little description. We're gonna be responsible for providing circulation services, general desk duties, along with some shelving. In the process of still getting our will be arriving in a couple weeks. Very good.
That's part-time. Did they say how many hours?
It's just part-time. I guess they'll contact Stephanie Silvers.
All right. Parks board meet?
Parks board does not meet this month, they meet next month.
How's Mike doing? Oh, he's here.
Hello.
Good, because we're fast. Truck grant.
Just, like I say, just quick update on the truck grant. Basically, we got awarded the money to do it. There's still some paperwork that needs to be finalized. We were supposed to get approval to purchase tonight, but they told us there's 99.9% chance that everything's okay, but that 0.1 would invalidate if we bought it. So we're just holding off a month until we can get it in April.
Well, that gives us time to update the quotes. Chris, what is the rough award amount?
94,000.
94,000 total, so intention to go forward with the grant process. That would be a total purchase price of about $80,000. The return on that is 44, obviously, but we've already purchased the truck at 290,000, so we can look at it a couple different ways. Next month, we will have the quotes or the bids for the loose equipment here for approval, so we can go through that as we go forward. Approve the purchase.
All right. Is the sheriff's report in here?
No, I did not receive one.
Okay. All right. Good, so we're gonna open the, public hearing now?
Yep.
Okay, we'll open, a public hearing for Carolyn Power and a public hearing business subsidy.
I'll try to speak up so everybody can hear me, but if you can't, just let me know. But good to see everybody tonight. We're talking about rather large expansion of business here in the community. Carolyn Power decided to relocate from just outside of town into our city limits. It's a project that we've been working on in some shape or form for a number of years now, but it's fun to see it kind of get to the end goal here. So we have several items here that we have to discuss and take action on, but I thought I would give kind of just a general overview of the project, and Mike can kind of go into the details on the financing and some of the details of how this will work from the council's perspective, so that then if the public has any questions or any comments after the hearings, they can chime in after our little presentation here. But in general, the EDA has recommended that the business subsidy agreement and development agreement that's in your packets be approved by the council. Those agreements, the first one, business subsidy agreement, is an outline of the assistance, the financial assistance that will be given by the city to the business. And the reason we have to do the subsidy agreement is because the value of this assistance is over $150,000. So that's a state statute that because that threshold has been met, we have to have a separate public hearing. We have to have a separate subsidy agreement. We have to have job and wage goals set and reported upon until those wages, those goals are met. In this case, the value of the subsidies, the value of everything that we're helping the business with is about $630,000. That is roughly the construction cost, the estimated construction cost to extend water and sewer to the newly annexed site that you guys approved for annexation a couple months ago, which is just north of the vet clinic, 122. So it's about a 10.2 acre site there that Carolyn will be purchasing. Should everything move forward tonight and with the project. And the EDA is recommending that we provide water and sewer to that site. So it's not just as straightforward as saying we'll do that. There's a few steps that we have to take. The first one being with that business subsidy agreement. And then also how do we fund that assistance that we're talking about. And that's through a couple of different items. The first one being the state grant. We received a $285,000 grant from the state of Minnesota to help offset that 630 number. That's the maximum possible dollar amount that we can get for that grant. It's a dollar for dollar grant, but notice 630 divided by 2 is 285. There's some soft costs that the state does not pay for. So some of the engineering and design work and some of that, there's about $30,000 worth of that engineering soft cost that does not qualify for the grant. In addition to that, Mike will talk about the details on exactly the mechanics of it, but we're going to be using TIF to offset the cost of the other half of that, roughly $315,000 or so. And we can't use the TIF directly for that infrastructure, so we're actually using the TIF for site improvements. So we're doing a cost swap with the business. So when the building is up and finished and built, and the pipes are in the ground, they're going to pay us $315,000 for the portion of water and sewer that their TIF on their site is going to so then we're going to then give them the $315,000 back immediately to give them the TIF benefit for those sites. So that enables us to then capture the tax increments that are going to be created from that site to make the payments, and then the net effect on the taxpayers will be as close to zero as we possibly can. When I say that $30,000, which may or may not, Michael get into details on that may or may not necessarily be a cost that comes out of that. So that's kind of the big picture in a nutshell. We have a second agreement, that is the master development agreement, which codifies all of this stuff, the subsidies, the mechanics of how this TIF will work, the things we agree to, the things they agree to. They're agreeing to get the building done within 2 years, but they're projecting that it'll be done by the end of this year. There was one wrinkle that came up just with the costs that are coming up with COVID and supply shortages and construction materials. They are projecting that their costs are going to be a little bit higher, so they have to get some additional internal approvals. And talking with the developer, it doesn't seem like it's that big of a setback, but maybe 2-3 weeks. And so they're anticipating getting those internal approvals of the new costs April 6th. So instead of approving everything tonight, what I would ask the council to do, if you are agreeable, to approve the subsidy agreement in the development agreement on the condition that the developer does sign the documents by April 6th, or basically the next council meeting. In doing so, you would allow us to keep moving forward, especially from an engineering standpoint. Later on, you'll be asked to start some design work that, just timing wise, if we don't start it now, it's going to delay and cause manpower issues with just physically getting people to do the work. So what we would recommend you doing is, if you are agreeable to the project, proving it on a condition that if things do get signed between now and the next council meeting, we'd be able to move forward without an additional special meeting or additional work. And I did talk with EDA chair as well, and he was agreeable to making that recommendation on his behalf as well, for what that's worth. But just that would be my staff recommendation, given that new update. But with that, I mean, I'll turn it over to Michael Bonney, our financial advisor, to talk about the mechanics of TIF and kind of go into that setting.
Great. All right, good evening. Chris really hit the highlights pretty well, but for the benefit of the public, could I just spend maybe 20 seconds talking about tax increment financing just in general? The term tax increment financing, let's not be confused. All we're doing is we're talking about property taxes. And the way it works is, if there's bare ground, there's not much there for taxes. You put something on there of value, eventually the taxes go up because of the value. Normally, in a normal course of business, somebody builds a new house, somebody builds a new business, it generates the new taxes. The city government, the county government, the school government, they all take that revenue and they pay for snow plowing and police protection and all the stuff you normally pay for. What you do with the TIF district is you isolate the new taxes from this new value, and you capture all the new city taxes, you capture all the new county taxes, and you capture a little bit of the school taxes. And it all gets redirected to the city, not to use for snow plowing and police protection, but to use for project costs, to help a project along that otherwise would not. What's the barrier? The barrier is the sewer and water to the site, $630,000. So when I was first approached about this, the question was, can we use TIF to pay for that sewer and water pipe? And I said, not directly, because that sewer and water pipe is located not even adjacent to the property. It's kind of leading to it. And in tax increment law, what you generate in that area, you have to spend in that area. So that's when it was to Chris to propose to Dairyland that we do a cost swap, where they pay us X amount for the sewer and water, and then we'll turn around and pay them X amount. So they come out whole. But we'll pay them X amount for their site improvements inside the site. Now, there's different types of TIF districts. They all calculate the revenue the same way. The formulas are the same. But there are different rules and regulations with each type. This type that we're talking about tonight is economic development. It is manufacturing, industrial, warehousing, and so forth. Work into that definition. We bond council, and they're comfortable with the definition that they meet those terms. Sometimes you can use these types of TIF districts with a small cities exception, like Harmony has in the past, where you can do it for small commercial properties, less than 15,000 square feet, but in general, it's for industrial kind of uses. It's limited to 9 sections. So, if they build their property and add value this year, that doesn't raise taxes this year. That doesn't raise taxes in 2002. It raises taxes in 2023. So that would be year 1 that you collect revenue, and then you collect a year thereafter, for 8 more after that. The timing of the construction is a little bit important, because if they only partial build this year, that means the county might only capture a partial of the value, so that first year of 23 might not be a full year worth of revenue, it might be based on something else. And when we're talking about financing, you're counting on revenue to make payments, right? And so that's kind of a potential risk factor for us, is that if they don't build it quickly, we could be on the short end of the stick. But here's the good news: even though we only get 9 collections of TIF, once the TIF district ends its natural life, all that tax base is now free for normal purposes. And if you had to, you could levy against it to make up for any shortfalls on the back end. But we're not foreseeing a shortfall. I'm just suggesting that that's the potential risk. Okay, in your packets, there is a lengthy TIF plan document. You don't necessarily need to pull it through it, but in there, on page 4 is a budget. You're gonna find the numbers in the budget are more than what we need. Whenever I establish a budget in a TIF plan, or talk about the authority to do anything in a TIF plan, I always put more in there than what you actually plan to do. And the reason being is if something unforeseen occurs and we need more capacity or more budget for some reason, if I made this budget super tight, and then all of a sudden we decided we needed borrowing anticipated with this project, I'll get into the details of that later. The plan authorizes up to $490,000 in borrowing, but we're not gonna borrow that much. Again, making the plan bigger than what we need. And I'll show you how much I think we need in a minute. In the back are several exhibits. If you were to flip, you don't have to, but on exhibit 3, based on is gonna add a little over 2.3 million in. If it does, because they